my name is Abigail, and this is the Polyglot Progress Podcast. I did get a couple comments on the last podcast that it was a little bit difficult to hear me, so I messed around with the mic a little bit, turned the gain up, etc. If you're still finding it hard to hear, definitely let me know, because I do want everyone to be able to listen to it. I'll make sure in post, too, that it sounds okay to me, but I think that the last podcast, I didn't really notice that it was too quiet. It sounded all right to my ears, so if you're still having trouble, please let me know. Other than that, it is the end of June, so it felt like the perfect time to take a look back at my 2020 goals and see how I'm doing so far. I don't think I've ever really done this on this channel. I've done the sort of start of year-end review and looking to next year type things, and then I do the summer goals series where I check in throughout the summer and let you know how I'm doing on my goals, but I don't think there's ever been kind of like a half-year check-in before, but I feel like it's a really good thing to do, and I feel like especially with quarantine and all that kind of things, it's a good time to kind of reassess what's going on and whether things are feasible for this year, and just also if they're things that we still want to be doing and that sort of thing. So we're going to take a look at my list from the start of this year and just see how I was doing. I will say I watched over the 2019 review and 2020 goals podcast, and no one let me know that I had accidentally cut out the intro to that podcast, and also there's one or two times where I mess up and I meant to kind of delete the mess up, but I didn't. So thank you all for being very patient with that podcast, I guess, and letting me be a little bit more relaxed and messing up a little bit more in that one, because I definitely didn't realize that that was how it was. I probably will go back at some point and try to edit what I can using the YouTube editor, but some of it is just not going to be fixable, like the missing intro. But thank you for dealing with my strange upload at some point in January. So the first thing that I wanted to do that I talked about a little bit in the podcast, but I guess I didn't really add to my kind of official goals list looking at what I have written down, was that I wanted to study almost every day. I ideally kind of wanted to study every day, but I didn't want to force myself, so if something came up, I really wasn't feeling like studying, I didn't want to make myself study. I wanted it to be a thing where I wanted to study, and that's why I was doing it, and also sometimes I would get myself to study if it was a matter of discipline, but like if I was feeling super sick or something like that, it wasn't going to be a forced you have to study every day. It was more so building that kind of habit. And I would say that for the first good portion of the year, this was not what was happening. My hiatus from languages kind of lasted until the beginning of April, I'd say. It's kind of weird because I took a hiatus from languages last summer, and I knew that's what was happening. I knew I was taking a break from languages. And then I came back in the fall and was talking about how I was coming back and how I took this break and I really needed it, but now I was ready to start doing stuff. And then it was honestly just school that got in the way. I really did want to be studying languages. I felt that excitement again. I did sit down with my intensive Bulgarian book a few times. I did some reading in other languages a few times. So I was trying to actually get back into it in the fall, but I didn't really do that. It wasn't really a successful thing, and it purely was just that I was so swamped with other things. And then winter came and I became even more swamped. I was going to have more time, and then that whole debacle with having a second senior project came up, and I was dealing with things in my personal life and stuff. Basically, 2019 was a rough year for me in my personal life / beginning of 2020. And obviously there's everything that's happening right now, but I'd honestly say that I think things are settling out a little bit more in my personal life, despite the craziness of the world. But on a personal level, definitely the 2018 to early 2020 period was a little bit crazy for me. So it made it a bit hard to do language stuff, and I still think it's fine that I took that hiatus. I think it's easy for me to sometimes feel frustrated with the fact that my level went down, but if I really think about all the stuff that did happen in the past little over a year, I guess, it's been a lot, and I definitely needed that time off in order to process all the things happening. So it happens. Sometimes we need time off from our hobbies to process stuff in life. But I'd say that in the first half of April, I was studying close to every day, if not every day, and then I had to kind of take a break for a month because it was finals time and I really just had to crunch all my work and do all of it. And then the second half of May onward, I would say that I've been studying almost every day without fail. There's obviously been some days that I have missed, and it's not always that I forget or I just don't get around to it or whatever. A lot of the time it is that I know that I'm not going to do language stuff that day. I know that I have other things that I want to focus on that are going to take a lot of brain power, that I don't feel like studying languages is really what I want to be doing that day. It's just going to kind of burn me out a little bit. I've been trying to be smart about that sort of thing, and also know that I've taken breaks off sometimes to go and like hang out with my sisters a little bit because I am home again, which wasn't really expected, and it does give me time to spend time with my sisters and things like that. So there's just been time like that where I haven't necessarily stuck to it every day, but I'd say for the most part it's been pretty much every day. So I'd say I'm doing really well with that goal of studying not every day but almost every day, because that's pretty much been what it is, and it has been a thing of I'm not pushing myself to do it if it feels like I'm only going to be miserable studying that day, if I'm totally just fried from all the work that I did that day and that sort of thing. The other day I filmed 3 Polyglot Progress videos, and I'm not really sure that I did language stuff after that. That might have been a day that I took off, just because it can be a lot sometimes. Going hand in hand with that, I wanted to use languages often because I am just not very good at that sort of thing. I didn't speak French for like a year. In fact, I still haven't really. I spoke it last when I was in West Africa, and then now that I'm not in a French-speaking country, I haven't really spoken it. I do have an italki lesson in 4 days, I guess. So soon I will speak it again. But definitely while I'm in the US, it's very hard for me to get practice speaking French, which is not what I want at all. So working on that one for sure. But I'd say I've been doing a lot better. I've taken 2 italki lessons in the last 5 days, I guess, and then I've got another one coming up. And then I've got more that I'm starting to kind of plan as I'm taking these lessons and figuring out if these are the tutors I want to use. I'm scheduling things for future times. I booked a package with my Spanish tutor, for example, so I'm definitely working on doing more italki lessons, so that way I am getting time to practice speaking. It may seem like taking italki lessons and that sort of thing would be an easy fix for the not speaking super frequently problem, but I just wasn't really in a place financially where I would be able to do that previously, and now I've been kind of setting money aside to do it when I had time, and now I have time and this money set aside. And I also am fortunate that although I'm still paying my rent for the apartment I don't currently live in, being home does mean that I'm not paying for groceries and that sort of thing. So it does mean that I, in some senses, am saving a little bit of money right now. I've also been journaling frequently. I made myself a journaling schedule, so every Sunday I journal in whatever my kind of focus for the month is, this month being Spanish, last month being German. And then I, on Thursdays, have been alternating off between German and French because those are kind of my maintenance languages at the moment. I'm not sure what will happen next month when I add Italian as the focus and push Spanish to kind of maintenance and improving through immersion, because I feel like alternating 3 languages on the Thursday spot is just gonna mean that I don't really get to practice them very much. And then if you think about August, when I add Bulgarian as the focus and Italian pushes that, it'll mean that I'm only really journaling in each of those languages once a month, which I guess is kind of fine since they're more like maintenance, but really the maintenance category for me at this moment with my language plans is more of a improve through immersion only kind of situation. So I'm doing my crash course of studying, or studying it when it's the focus, like Bulgarian, I think, is going to end up having the focus spot for like 3 months instead of 1, because it's not going to just be a crash course, it's going to be actually intensively studying it, because I am still very much so a beginner in Bulgarian. Every time I've gone to study Bulgarian again, I am always very much so a beginner. I haven't really been able to get past that A0, A1 stage because it's just so difficult for me. So I'm hoping that I can really make the most of utilizing italki again this time around, because I think that was very important to me the first time that I learned Bulgarian. Just because I have such a hard time with some of the grammar stuff and whatnot, and I think that the books that I have are not always the best at explaining it for my brain, so having someone that can kind of help me through it a little bit is definitely going to help. But yeah, I feel like it's going to be a little weird to rotate 4 languages in that spot, so what I may do is do like journaling on maybe Sundays Tuesdays and Thursdays or something like that, and kind of alternate on the Tuesdays and the Thursday spot or something like that. I still have to figure that out, but either way, it's been working really well to get me some writing practice, which I would count as using the languages, obviously. And then I've also been reading. I'm reading the first Percy Jackson book in German. I'm reading a poetry book in Spanish. I need to read something in French. I think I am gonna not read the audiobook that I started. I know I mentioned that in my summer goals video. I was like, I started 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea in French, but I don't know if I'm gonna keep reading it. And you know what? I don't think I am gonna keep reading it. So I need to figure out what I do want to read in French, because I honestly just wanted something that was an audiobook on Spotify to start listening to. And so I chose that, but I just don't have that much like excitement to read that. I think if I were shown like 100 books in French and told to like pick one out, like when you're a kid and you go to the library in the summer to pick out your book for the week or whatever, I wouldn't pick that. So I think that's not really what I'm going to stay reading. I just have so many books that I want to read in my life, and right now especially, and I don't know why I would then read something that I don't really want to read as much. I definitely want to be reading more kind of like native content in languages, but at the same time, I think even if I read something that's been translated into French, that's fine, because there are a bunch of books that I want to read, and it'll knock one of those off my reading list. I'll have read it, and then also I'll get to read in French. So I also have like probably like 5 or 6 books in French in my room right now that I should probably read, because I'm trying to downsize the number of books that I own, so I should probably just read some of those and then get rid of them. It really is just the eternal struggle of figuring out what book to read, and that whole thing of I have books, but I'd rather read books that I don't have, and that sort of thing. Trying to work on that for sure. I guess while we're kind of talking about that, it might be worth talking about some of the other kind of related goals. So I also wanted to find a sustainable routine. So be studying often, but have it be something that's sustainable. So even when life does get a little bit hectic, life is a little bit busy, etc., I'm still able to do it. I think I've done this, but at the same time, I really don't know, because I am in a very weird position right now, as all of us are, where I am not working as much. Also, I just graduated, so I honestly don't even know what life totally looks like for me in terms of that sort of thing. Like, it's not building a sustainable routine right now for when I go back to school, because I'm not, and that totally hasn't sunk in yet. But I won't need to balance it with schoolwork anymore, so in that sense it feels sustainable, but I don't know what it's going to be like when I am working full-time, when I am able to run errands in the way that I previously did, if I will return to the ways that I previously was and whatnot. It's very hard to know those things right now, if this is sustainable or not. And it also just is a weird scenario right now where I'm obviously home a lot more than I normally would be. So I don't really know. I can't really say if it's a sustainable routine. But at the moment it feels sustainable. It doesn't feel like I'm ever doing things that are burning me out. If I even get close to that, I think I will stop. More so when I talk about not doing language stuff to burn out in this routine that I'm doing right now, it's more so just like, if I've done a ton of work that day, I don't want to fry myself out at the end of the day and make it so I don't want to do work tomorrow. Not so much a language specific thing. I wanted to learn seasonal or holiday vocabulary to kind of keep things fresh and to work on laddering. And honestly, I haven't done this. I totally forgot about this as a goal, but it sounds really fun. So I think I might do that at some point. Summer, I guess, doesn't really have kind of as many holidays happening. Maybe, I guess, some that I could use relevant vocabulary for. Maybe I'll learn how to talk about like July 14th in not only French, which I can talk about it in, but maybe I'll learn some vocabulary for if I were to talk about that in Spanish or German or something like that. That might be fun. But definitely when kind of like holiday season in the US rolls around, like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, etc., that definitely seems like a thing that I'd like to do. And seasonally also, I should learn some like summer vocabulary and stuff. I do think that would be really fun, but I definitely haven't done it yet. I wanted to be able to use all of the languages that I was studying in a work setting as kind of like a way to structure my speaking, I guess, and give me an opportunity to speak. I worked at a store in a mall, and there would be people who would come and speak in other languages sometimes, so I thought it would be fun to be able to be able to talk to those customers if someone did come in and was speaking French or speaking German or speaking Spanish, etc., and be able to help them in that language if the situation ever arose. And even if it never did arise, just have that be something that I've prepared myself for. So I ended up learning some grammar, some vocabulary and stuff that would be relevant in those scenarios, just to kind of give me like a scenario to play off of to learn things. I don't have that job anymore, obviously. I got laid off when COVID struck, so I don't know if this goal is really applicable anymore. I also wanted to be able to use these things in a film setting, and that I definitely do want to learn. I do want to get myself to a point where technically, if the situation ever arose, I could work on a film set in any of the languages I speak. I've worked on films twice now in French, and it was really fun. It was really cool to learn new vocabulary that never really came up in my life previously because I don't know, you're never really learning those film terms in school or in French settings or in French textbooks, etc. So it was really cool, and I definitely wanted to kind of transfer that over to other languages as well. In terms of the work at a retail place, I do know that I'm about to start applying to retail jobs again, so there's a possibility that I'll bring this goal back. But for now, I don't know if it's even really the focus even for when I am working there. Obviously, I would like to be able to talk to customers if they were to come in and speak a language that I speak and need assistance in that language, but I don't know if I'll really be working somewhere that will have as specific vocabulary as the store I was working at previously. I don't want to give away where I worked, but the vocabulary was pretty specific, and I don't think it's going to be as specific wherever I work. So I think maybe that specific goal doesn't need to exist. It can just be I would like to be talking to customers if they are hey, does anyone speak German? I'd like to be in a place where I feel comfortable enough to say, yes, I do, let me help you. Because currently, I don't know how comfortable I am. I guess I wouldn't lie and be oh, I don't know German. But, I'd like to be at a point where I'm excited to say yes. And even if it never happens, I just want that level of confidence where if it ever did, it would be fine. And those are kind of all of my general language goals that I had set. So I'd say they're all going pretty well, or are no longer as applicable, but pretty well. Moving on to specific languages, I guess we can start with what I started with in the video, which was what I thought might be a little bit more fun for everyone, because everyone likes hearing about new languages. I wanted to start Arabic or Japanese, but I didn't want to start it until June at the earliest. I knew that it was kind of a thing where I probably may not even do it this year, but I wanted to, and so I was yeah, maybe in 2020 if I'm really good with my studying, but definitely June at the earliest because I want to focus on everything else first. Obviously, it is the end of June right now. I have not started studying Arabic or Japanese, and it's not something that will happen anytime soon. I have actually thought about this, and one of those two will be my next language. I do know that. But I have definitely thought about whether it's still feasible. I made myself a plan for the rest of 2020 for kind of languages I'll be studying. In fact, let's take a look at that right now, shall we? It's only really kind of solidified through summer, but I would like to rotate my focuses, as I was saying, with the maintenance and stuff. So Spanish is this month, then we're adding Italian in July, Bulgarian in August, and then Bulgarian is going to remain my focus for August, September, and October, and then I will move on. And I don't really know what's going to happen in November and December. That's where it's possible that Arabic or Japanese will get added. I have made myself a note that I either want to keep improving languages, continue kind of doing what I'm doing, and just kind of use those, 5 languages, I guess, and work on kind of improving those and focusing on those just as a whole, or I'm going to add Arabic or Japanese and continue to improve those other languages through immersion while also learning Arabic or Japanese. But I really don't know, and it's really going to come down to how I'm feeling in October, if I feel like my Bulgarian is at a place where I'm ready to move it to immersion only, or if it's something that I keep wanting to kind of intensively focus on, and then also how I'm feeling about my Spanish, my Italian, my German, my French, It's really going to be a whole holistic kind of thing. I don't want to just throw in another language for the sake of it. And that's how it was to begin with in my 2020 language goals. It was really a see how I'm feeling about everything else and then possibly do it. It was really just that I made myself a kind of, 4-year at the time plan of what if I tried to speak 10 languages at an intermediate to advanced level by the time I'm 25? What would that look like? How many languages do I still need? What could I add? Can I add languages each year? Should I really just be focusing on the ones that I'm on right now? That sort of thing. And it's not even that that's necessarily my goal. People ask me all the time if I have a goal that's like, I want to speak 30 languages before I'm 30, etc. I don't really have a real goal like that. Even this 10 by 25 thing isn't real for me necessarily. That's not what I go off of for my language learning. I just wanted to do it as kind of like a thought experiment and see what it would look like and map out my language learning like according to that and see just kind of where I was at with that. And it was nice to be able to see that I could be adding new languages and that sort of thing, and it wouldn't be crazy overwhelming, etc. If that makes sense. So it is put in here as something that ideally, with the goal for this year, I would love to start Arabic or Japanese and start to get a foundation in it. But at this point, if I do it, it'll really be at the end of the year. It'll really be that I'm focusing on learning the writing system and very basic things like just introductory phrases and stuff. And then 2021 would become the year where I'm more focused on learning that language, and where I would actually make progress in that language. But as I said, I don't know if that's even going to happen, so definitely, if you're wondering why I haven't posted a single, like, Arabic or Japanese video at the end of the year, whatever it is that I choose to go with, it's probably that I've decided that I don't really want to do it. You'll definitely hear more about that, obviously, throughout the rest of the year. But I wouldn't say that this is, like, a plan and you can expect that I'll do it, because at this point, I honestly think what will end up happening is that I won't start one. I would really love to, and currently I'm leaning a little bit more towards Japanese, but we'll see. I always flip-flop back and forth, so it could very well become Arabic by that time. But as of currently, I really am feeling like improving these languages. I don't know. It's like that rush you get when you're a beginner in a language. I'm getting that right now with the intermediate hump, so I don't know what's happening. That plateau is not feeling bad for me right now. It's feeling really good. So I kind of think that I may just want to kind of hang out and do that a little bit longer with all these languages. And then also, the real thing that I think is going to keep me from doing it is my Bulgarian is going to take me a long time. As I said, every time I've studied, I stay in kind of the A0, A1 range, I'd say, like a low beginner range. It's just a very difficult language for me, and I have a feeling that when I start studying that again, I'm going to get that feeling of, like, this is so hard, and I only need to focus on this, and I can't even think about starting Japanese or Arabic, which are also going to be crazy difficult for me, I feel like, because they're so different from everything else I've studied. So I just have a feeling that by the time that point in the year comes, I'm going to want to work on getting my Bulgarian to the highest place it's ever been, hopefully an intermediate level. I'd love to get to like a low intermediate or like upper beginner kind of level in Bulgarian, where I feel a little bit more comfortable talking about things that aren't very basic small talk, because I feel like I have never left that kind of like very basic small talk range with Bulgarian conversations. So I'd like to do that, and I have a feeling I'm going to want to do that. I'm going to want to get my German to a higher level. I'm going to want to improve my Spanish and Italian. So we'll see what happens. For French, I wanted to use and improve it, which is still the goal. I really would like to start using my French. I'm so bad at using it. Like I said, it's been a year, and I just got official confirmation that I did earn my French degree. So I now have a degree in French, and I feel like I haven't spoken it in a year. I guess I know I haven't spoken it in a year, and before that, a whole year went by too. So I don't like that that's how it's been going. I'm really hoping that italki gives me a place where I can just continuously speak it. I'm really hoping that I can find a tutor that I just enjoy talking to in a way where it doesn't feel like I'm taking the lesson to practice my French. I'm there because I want to speak to this person, and it just so happens that it's in French, and it just so happens that she's also able to correct my pronunciation and stuff, which we will talk about a little bit later. I am definitely focusing a little bit more on pronunciation and accent this year as well, which we'll talk about at some point. More specifically for French, I wanted to translate something. I guess I actually have done this. I was about to say I haven't done this at all, but I guess because of my second senior project, I have. Basically what ended up being my French senior project was I took the film that I made for my other degree, and I transcribed the whole thing, translated the whole thing, and then added French subtitles to it, and then wrote like a, 15 or so, maybe it was closer to 20, page thesis on kind of like all of the translating choices that I made, and translation theories, and roller derby is a global sport, and all of this random stuff that I guess wasn't random. It all had a point in the paper, but you know what I mean. So I guess I did actually translate something. I was definitely predicting that my translating something would be more of like a book or an article or something like that, but I guess technically speaking, yes, I did translate something. So that's one goal done. I also wanted this year to make more educational videos on Polyglot Paris, which is still something I want to do. I feel like those videos haven't really come out yet just because they do require like a little bit more pre-production, and I've been trying to just stick to the upload schedule, take it a little bit easier than videos that take as long as those do, just so there is more of these things on the internet for free. That's really the goal. And then also similarly like linguistics and stuff. I don't have a degree in linguistics, but I do have a minor. I am somewhat knowledgeable about that, so I think maybe like very basic stuff I could at least pass on that information. But one of the goals for French was potentially making videos that were in French teaching another language, so either like French to English videos, or French to German, or French to Spanish, or something like that. The reason I haven't really done this is just I am a little bit nervous about branching out into teaching other languages other than French, just because I don't have that high of a level in really anything else. So I think this won't be a 2020 goal so much. I think really what I'm realizing is that's going to be a long-term goal. I would love to eventually have like a German grammar, a Spanish grammar, an Italian grammar, etc. series on here, but I don't think they'll be anytime soon. I think I need to learn those languages first before I can kind of impart my wisdom onto you. I say wisdom as though I have any sort of like wisdom in French. I don't. I just can remember how to use like certain tenses and that sort of thing. And then I wanted to read more in French. We've talked a lot about this. I still need to do this. I still need to pick a book. And then I wanted to further German, Bulgarian, Spanish, and Italian. So for German, my goal was to get it to an upper intermediate or low advanced level. I think one difficult part of this year is that I realized as the year went on that I don't think I'm at as high of a level as I may have thought. I did know that I lost a bit of my level while I took a hiatus, but I think I didn't realize how much of my level I lost in certain things. But I also don't know if it's that effect. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of it right now, but that thing where as you get better, you also kind of, your thoughts on how good you are at something goes down. Editing Abigail here. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. So maybe it's that, and I think that my German is a lot worse than it is, but it's actually because it's improving slightly. I don't know, but I guess that still is like the goal, but I guess a more realistic for me would be getting it just to like a solid intermediate level, probably. I don't know if I'm already an intermediate level. I really don't know anymore. Because honestly, I'd say right now I do feel like I'm at more of a beginner level in German, weirdly enough, like an upper beginner, lower intermediate. But at the same time, I think my German is better than my Spanish and Italian were when I took the OPIC exams, and I got an intermediate low and an intermediate mid on those. So I guess by those standards, I am at an intermediate level in German, potentially. I just find it very difficult at this point in my life to know kind of what my level actually is in things. So, I don't know. I wanted to read Percy Jackson, working on it right now, so hopefully that will be something I do complete this year. I wanted to be able to pass a B2 exam, and not a real B2 exam, but like possibly just take a practice test online, maybe take a real one, but I don't know. I don't feel like I need to take like CEFR or OPIC or whatever other proficiency exams really anymore. I never really felt like I needed to. I thought it was cool to do for Spanish and Italian because I'd never done it before, so it really was a great experience to get to do it. And I may at some point take a CFR exam just because I do want to be able to compare it to the OPIC exam and potentially also make videos about how to prepare for those and how they differ and which one might be better for people who do want to take a proficiency test to take. But I feel like for myself, I don't learn languages even for work and that sort of thing. I feel like it's great if they come in handy for work, but I'm not trying to like show to my profession I have this specific level and I have certification for that. So I don't really have a use for certification exams, and they make me anxious. So I don't really know if that's something that I really want to do ever again in the future. Probably I do want to take a CEFR test, but I don't think that'll really be a this year kind of deal. Maybe a practice test, though. I would like to sit a practice B2 exam and just see if I can pass it. Maybe give myself a slight gauge as to what my German level is through that. But I feel like it's so hard with things like that, because also how am I going to gauge my speaking, etc. Who knows? I do know that there are italki teachers that will do kind of like, you come, you speak to me, I'll let you know your proficiency level and things. So maybe I'll do something like that at some point for each of the languages, just to give myself a little bit of a gauge and be able to tell you what supposedly my level is, because it's a little hard to talk about things when you don't actually know where you're at. I wanted to start translating songs. I haven't done that at all, but I do actually want to do that at some point. I was thinking about that the other day. I would like to just kind of like print out or write down some song lyrics in German and translate them to English, just as a way to learn a little bit of vocab, to practice translating in languages other than French. I've taken like translation theory courses related to French, so I know what it's like to translate from French to English and a little bit English to French as well, but I don't really have a wide experience doing this with other languages, so I think that would be interesting as well. And then I wanted to be able to talk for 15 minutes. I actually boosted this, I think, to 30 minutes or something like that in my summer goals, so I guess we'll be doing a little bit better than that. And in terms of conversation, I had a 30-minute conversation in German the other day, and there were like 2 words in English used, and it was me because I didn't know the vocab word, and then she let me know. But we really didn't speak any English, so it was like a 30-minute long German conversation. So that felt really good. Bulgarian, I wanted to get to an intermediate to low level. Again, I would still like that, but again, I feel like I, for some reason, used to feel so fine using like CFR things and then OPIC things and stuff to kind of describe potentially my level, because it is a lot easier to say that sort of thing on camera and kind of give people a gauge of where you're at and where you want to be and stuff. But I don't know, for some reason this year I first was like, CFR is not like specific enough, so I'd rather use the OPIC like intermediate low, intermediate mid, intermediate high kind of levels. But I just, at this point, I have such a hard time gauging my levels. I don't know why this suddenly happened. I think it's a little bit of imposter syndrome, but there's just been this very big struggle for me now to kind of have any sort of point of reference of what my level is in things. So, because there's times where I'm like, yeah, I can say all these things, so I'm probably at like an intermediate or maybe even advanced level. But then I'm like, but I have so much trouble doing this, so I must be a beginner. So who knows what level I'm at, folks? I don't. If you take anything away, it's that in mid-2020, Abigail has no idea what language levels are anymore. Hopefully I kind of figure that out throughout the rest of this year. I think I am just having a weird kind of like imposter syndrome and whatever that effect that I can't remember the name of is time where I think that my levels are really low because I am improving them and because I'm just coming back to language learning and it is lower than it was before and stuff. But I'll definitely try to figure out around where I'm at and that sort of thing for you. And until then, we have my diaries, I guess, as a gauge and a reference. I wanted to be able to woof in Bulgarian. I found like a couple woofing projects that I wanted to do in Bulgaria, and I said that I had no plans of going to Bulgaria this year or potentially even the next few years, but I just wanted to be at a place where I felt like I was comfortable to do that, and I still think that would be a great goal. I definitely cannot do that anytime soon, given the state of the world, and I don't know if I'll be able to reach that level in my Bulgarian, honestly. But I definitely think that is a fun goal to have, so I'd like to work towards that. And then I wanted to be able to talk for 10 minutes. I think I lowered that slightly for my summer goals. But as a year, yeah, definitely 10 minutes. Spanish, I wanted to be at an upper intermediate or low advanced. This is the weird thing, is that I did take a Spanish italki lesson, and my teacher thought that I was probably somewhere in the intermediate moving to advanced range. And I don't feel like that at all. I feel like a very beginner in Spanish right now. So I feel like these are the things that have made it a chaotic wind tunnel of me not understanding where I'm at anymore. And again, still like that to be my level. I'd really like all the languages that I'm studying right now to be at like an upper intermediate to advanced level. There's some languages I don't want to learn necessarily to an advanced level, but I think all of these I would like to. So definitely would like to do that. I wanted to be ready for the Polyglot conference even if I wasn't going. The Polyglot conference obviously is not happening in Mexico anymore. I will be going now because it's not going to be in Mexico, so I do know that I can go. And I'd still like to get my Spanish to a place where I guess I would have felt comfortable going to Mexico for the conference. And I guess the other good news is that I do think that now I potentially can very strongly be able to go in 2021 to Mexico to the conference. So I'd like to get my Spanish obviously to a place where it feels ready for that conference, which is also exciting. So there is one good thing that came out of the rescheduling for the Polyglot conference, is that A, I can go this year, and B, I can probably go next year to Mexico. So that's fun. I also wanted to finish my poetry book. I think I'm going to do that in probably the next month, and then I'm going to move on to likely another book in Spanish. So that one should go well as well. Italian, I wanted to get to an upper intermediate or low advanced again. And then I wanted to figure out my goals. I didn't really know yet. And now I do kind of know. I want to finish the Italian tutor book because I'm going through the tutor books for basically all of the languages. This summer, I would like to finish reading the Roald Dahl book Matilda, which I started reading in Italian many, many moons ago, and then put down about 10 pages in. So I probably need to start from the beginning, but I'm really not that far in, so it won't be that big a deal. So I'd like to read that. I'd like to be speaking on Italki, obviously. I want to record a 15-minute video in Italian. So I'd say, yeah, I have figured out the goals. That goal is done. But now obviously there's the new goals to do. And then the last language related goal was I wanted to work on Scottish Gaelic. So last year I started kind of dabbling in it in the fall. Yeah, I guess it was around Thanksgiving. I had previously dabbled in it a little bit that spring prior, just for fun, just kind of translating song lyrics and stuff like that. And then in the fall, the Duolingo course came out, so I was really excited. I let myself dabble a little bit around Thanksgiving, and then I kind of put it down again because it was just a dabbling project. I knew that it wasn't really going to be, at the time, a serious project, even though eventually I would like to kind of seriously study it. So my goals for 2020 with it were just for fun, again, keep it as kind of like a dabbling project, and to finish the Duolingo course. I haven't done a single thing, unless I did stuff in like January, but I doubt it. But recently, as I've gotten into language learning consistently, I have not done a single thing in Scottish Gaelic, and I honestly don't know if I'm going to this year. If I feel like picking up a dabbling project, I will, but honestly at the moment, similarly to how I was saying I don't know if I'm going to pick up a new language this year, I'm not really feeling like dabbling, weirdly enough. There's been a few instances of it. I had a few moments this summer where Dutch and Portuguese, weirdly enough, I was like, I want to learn that, and I could do it, I could learn it, and I just kind of was like, no, you really want to learn Japanese or Arabic next, like, so pick one of those. And usually I do just kind of let myself go with whatever I'm feeling at the moment, but I'm so committed to finally getting to Japanese or Arabic because they've been said to be my next language for so long, and then especially when Spanish and Italian just like came in and knocked out Arabic and Japanese, both of them. It set them back a lot. So I definitely want to do one of those next. So I'm not letting myself pick up a serious project other than those two. But and then since I couldn't pick them up like that, I was like, well, do I really want to dabble in those right now? And then I was like, nah. So I don't know if I'll really be dabbling much this year. If I do, I probably will do Scottish Gaelic because I do really love it. I do like dabbling in it. I do want to learn it at some point. But I'm not sure how much dabbling this year really has. I think the one dabble project that's going to happen, and it's actually planned out, is Esperanto, weirdly enough. I don't know how many people even really know this anymore because it was so long ago since I've actually even said that I speak or study Esperanto. But Esperanto was actually my third language. I learned English, I learned French, and then I learned Esperanto. And then came German, Spanish, Italian, all these projects that I'm doing right now. The thing is once I got to probably knowing, I'm going to say like 5 or 6 languages, I realized that I didn't really use Esperanto, and it wasn't really something that I was passionate about improving or maintaining other than being able to talk to people at conferences. I was just feeling like I really wanted to focus on other non-constructed languages. Not that there's a problem with constructed languages, but I was just feeling much more of a push towards kind of more natural languages. I still wanted to be able to speak Esperanto at conferences, so I kind of left it as this thing of, well, I guess I can always refresh it if I want to go to a conference. But I also realized when thinking about it like that, that I would rather speak to people at conferences in things like French or Spanish or Italian or Bulgarian, if I'm learning those, than practice my Esperanto. And that was kind of where I figured out that like I should just kind of take a step back from it and let myself forget Esperanto, because I had no desire to go take italki lessons. I had no desire to really read in Esperanto. I had no desire to speak with people in Esperanto, that sort of thing. So it just felt like not the best use of my time or energy. And I think that's totally fine for anyone with any language. If you realize that you don't really have a motivation to study it or to use it, then you don't have to force yourself to continue doing it. So I took a step back from that project. Weirdly enough now, though, if I hear or see Esperanto on the internet, I can understand it fully. So I guess I really haven't forgotten that much. I think at some point when I do go back to kind of dabble / relearn very briefly Esperanto before the Polyglot conference this year, I might film a video before I study anything of how much do I actually remember after, like, God, I guess it's been like 2 or 3 years at this point. But yes, I am planning to do a little Esperanto dabbling thing right before the Polyglot conference, just because there is an opportunity to use it. I think it might be fun. It might give me a break from my other projects, because it is a little dabble thing. Yeah, I think it'll just be fun, but I am not planning to bring Esperanto back up into my kind of list of languages that I study or speak, etc. I do feel like it's something that I'm okay leaving as a dormant thing. I think that was a long process getting there, because I was like, well, I'll study it occasionally, and then it was kind of like, but I don't even really want to, etc. And I really think that at this point in my life, like, I know that it's okay that I don't really want to be proficient in Esperanto, and I don't really need to be, so it is something that I am letting be there as something that was a great stepping stone in me becoming multilingual. It really was the project that got me to learn what this online language community is. It was through that I found videos where people were speaking Esperanto and doing language projects and stuff. And it also taught me a lot about how I could learn another language, and a lot about grammar, and a lot about just parts of language and that sort of thing. And so I think it really was fundamental towards me becoming part of Polyglot Progress, and later Polyglot Progress as a whole, I guess, and for me becoming someone who studies languages. So I am very glad that it was a part of my journey, but it's not something that I'm going to continue with, really. And then the only other goal for this year that's new is sort of like accents, pretty much. So I still stand by that I don't think that accents and pronunciation, other than like basic pronunciation, is the most important thing in a language. I know a lot of people very much so focus on that, but I do think grammar, vocabulary, etc., being able to use the language is more important to me and a more important skill in general than accent and like intonation and that sort of thing is, other than like what is needed to understand, basically. I don't feel like I need to trick people into thinking I'm a native speaker through my accent. I think the priority for me is being able to like read a book and understand it, have a conversation and be understandable and stuff. But this year, I don't know, I've just gotten an interest in kind of improving those accents to be a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit closer to the way a native speaker would sound, I guess. Just kind of for fun. I don't really know why this year I decided I'm into that, but I definitely am super kind of excited about it and have been trying to get pronunciation tips and advice and stuff when I take lessons. So it's something that I'm working on. It's definitely not my number one priority, and I don't think it ever will be, but it is something that I'm just messing around with a little bit this year. So that's the only really new goal. Overall, based on reading those, I'd say I'm doing pretty well with my 2020 language goals. I think the things that I haven't done, a lot of them are things that I don't really want to do anymore, and I think that's why it's good to do a 6-month check-in, because things changed. I thought I was going to start studying again in the winter, springtime, and then I wasn't able to in 2020, so I'm a little bit behind, and it's changed kind of what my goals are. But as a whole, I'd definitely say I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. If you still have your 2020 language goals and you want to let me know how you're doing based on those, I would really love to hear it. And I'd also like to know if you're going to go to the Polyglot conference online. I'm really excited to, I guess, maybe see you. They haven't really released a lot of what it's going to be like, so I don't know if it's going to be like video calls or if we're going to be in a chat or something. But I'm honestly really excited no matter what it is. I'm also really excited that it's like a week-long thing now. So there's going to be way more stuff going on, and it's going to be a lot more accessible with like watching old talks and stuff. So I'm really excited about it. So let me know if you're also planning to attend. I hope you enjoyed this more chatty and rambly podcast where we just kind of talked a little bit about goals, and maybe it inspired you to look over your goals and that sort of thing. I will see you on Saturday, and remember, practice makes progress.